the day came, Robin, my husband, had to release him because I knew the bird wouldn't fly from me. And it took him 4 days to go wild. But on the fourth day, he flew high with the flock. And it brings me to tears because it's such a joyous moment that he actually did it. I've got waist-long hair, and it was one of the most incredible parts of being with the finch. In fairness to the finch, it doesn't sound as crazy as it sounds. So these mannequin finches, their whole life revolves around these really, really long stems of grass. So they eat the seed, and then they use the stems as their nests. So it was very convenient and instinctive that he would be practicing on my hair. So normally when he was a bit sleepy, when we were inside having a rest from being outside, he would curl my strands, he'd abseil down my hair, and he would snuggle himself in. And once he got comfortable, normally resting on my collarbone, he would make this call, and he had lots of different calls. And this call was the content, almost like a purr call of happiness and safety. And to be the person that makes a wild creature feel safe was the biggest luxury of my life. And what a privilege to have this bird nesting in my hair. So it sounds like it's a kind of weird bird lady story, but actually it was the most tender moment between a human and a wild thing, and changed my life. Nighttime he would sleep on his own because I was really worried I would squash him if I was asleep. But during the day, so 12 hours of daylight on the equator, yes, I did have to figure out how to do things like eat. So he would sit on my finger, really protesting the fact that I had a fork or a knife in my hand instead of him. And he would inspect my food as I was eating it, like a really peculiar dietitian. And sometimes, out of either jealousy or curiosity, he would actually fly through the air following the mouthfuls of food. So I'd have to sort of somehow stop myself from swallowing him. And the same thing happened when I went to the loo. Obviously, you have to go to the loo. And he would fly, chirping madly because I'd left him alone. And I would have to somehow make sure that he didn't somehow dive into the loo, because that would have been awful. So these really weird, normal things that everyone does every day, changing my clothes. Suddenly I had this flying thing rummaging in my bra, diving down my clothes, thinking it was a game. And I just had to navigate everything differently and to understand that there was this little tiny bird about the size of my finger trying to do everything with me. So it was exhausting, but also really funny. He was really goofy and fun. So it was a pleasure. It was a real privilege to surrender my humanness. In fact, it was a gateway to the wild, really. So by spending time with the finch, especially in the grasslands, as we started to follow his family so that he could learn how to be a finch and observe those necessary survival techniques, I found myself retuning into the landscape and really understanding the rhythms of the landscape and allowing to see the whole world through the eyes of these wild birds. And it really was a perspective changer for me. And I've never been able to look at anything, existence, life, death, everything is different now that I've seen it through the eyes of a tiny wild bird.